All right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about how I painted this night scene right here. I'm going to talk about how I found a composition, doing a study from life, taking that study back to the studio where I make it a bigger painting. And at the end, I'm actually going to critique my work. I'm going to talk about some of the things I like about the painting and some of the things I don't like. All right, welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so that you can get better faster. So I've done night paintings before, but I've never done one from life. Here's actually my first night painting I did, I think when I was 18 years old. So for this one, I actually went to a area that I'd been before around Sarasota. It's kind of this fisherman's bait shop on this dock. And I'd been there before and liked, the lighting and the reflections and everything. I thought it'd be a cool place to paint. So I came back there, and since I'd already been there and taken some photos, I kind of already knew the composition I wanted to go with. And it was this L composition. I'm taking that phrase of L shape from one of my favorite painting books, which is Edgar Payne's Composition of Outdoor Painting. It's a really great book to get a hold of composition. And if you are trying to do landscapes, composition is probably the most important thing to get a handle on, especially at the beginning. It doesn't matter how well you paint your sky, your trees, your mountains, or whatever. If the composition isn't there, the painting's probably not going to work. And sometimes you can get lucky and get a good composition, but understanding what makes a good composition is very important. So I'll put a link in the description to that book if you want to check it out. Also, I highly recommend Ian Roberts' YouTube channel. He has a whole channel on composition. He has a great book on composition that I bought actually in college. And I just can't stress enough like how important it is to understand composition. And doing these thumbnails, like for a long time when I go out and plein air paint, I thought, oh, I don't need to do a thumbnail. I can figure it out on the canvas. That is not the case. Like I always force myself to do at least 2 or 3 thumbnails to figure out an interesting group of value shapes. And coming back to Edgar Payne's book, it's great because he has so many photos of these little sketches, and seeing so many of them and really small, it really gets you to understand the big picture and how these value shapes work. I found that the best way to understand composition is just to look at a lot of paintings and look at a lot of examples and to identify their compositions and why they work. So when I got there, I actually realized that the water was a lot lower than the photos I had taken the last time I was there. And that kind of messed up my L composition. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to kind of make it up or draw on what I can see from that photo, which I figured it wouldn't be that hard. It's just water. I'm not gonna have to make up that much. All right, now speaking of photos, let's take a look at 2 photos that I took while I was there. And you can see both of them have things that are off. In this one on the right, these rocks all right here are so bright, which is nice to have that reference for when I paint in the studio because I can understand the form of everything. But I mentally took note that when I was looking at it in real life, they were not that bright. They were actually closer to this. They were still not even that bright. And the light that was catching a lot of these rocks was a lot cooler, which you'll see in the final painting. I kind of pushed it a little cooler. But overall, the lighting was much more similar to this one. But even still with this one, I can't see anything happening in the store there. And in real life, I could. Also, this water is just a lot brighter. It's blown out here on the dock. And so a lot of times while I'm taking pictures, and you can do this too, even if you're not out there painting, like if you're taking pictures or video, you can take mental notes or take notes on the video. Like a lot of times I'll video a scene and I'll make note at what I'm noticing is different from the scene and real life. And this whole time I'm just using an iPhone. And I found that taking video is closer to, what it looks like naturally, but I'll take a lot of different photos exposing for different parts. So I have all the information I can pull from that if I need to in the studio. So when I was painting, I was using this light. I think it's a book light, or I think I've seen people use it as a light that conductors put on their conductor's stand in a symphony. I liked it because it has 2 separate lights and I could focus one on my palette and then one on my canvas. If I go back out again, I'm gonna get a little headlamp. Felt like that would add a little more light, which I would like. And also, just for handling all my stuff that's out there, having light wherever I need it would be very helpful as well. So I was pretty happy with the result. I took it back into the studio, did some touch-ups, and now I actually want to blow it up to a bigger size. The first one was done 9 by 12 inches. The next one is gonna be 14 by 18 inches. And so I start by toning my canvas with a wash of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, wipe with a paper towel. Then I draw it out and block out all the major values. Again, values are so important. Even though I've done the painting once, and know the composition and everything, just blocking out these big values is gonna really help me stay on track. And as I bring in color, I start with the darks. I really like working dark to light, thin to thick, and big to small. So I've talked about my process of painting with a still life before in terms of thinking about painting using cutout paper, in terms of starting with bigger dark shapes and working to smaller light shapes. And that's the same thing I do with a landscape. Now this doesn't mean that it's always gonna go this way and I'm not gonna have to come back in with darker shapes. You know, there's always gonna be a bouncing back and forth, but in general, I tend to work big to small, light to dark, and thin to thick. Now with a night scene like this, values are gonna be so important because what makes these lights pop and make them look like they're lit up is the darks around them. I always say your lights are only as light as the darks are around them. For example, here we have a dark square and a lighter square. Now if I put a white circle and a dark one, it looks very bright. I put the same value on the right side, it's not gonna look as bright because it's not surrounded by enough dark. So when you're painting a night scene, you wanna make sure you really establish those dark shapes to contrast the lighter shapes. And when you do put in the lighter shapes, you don't wanna just jump in and paint the lightest value possible. Like when I painted the inside of this shop, I didn't just put the brightest value right away. I still built up to it. I started with the darkest light value that I could and built up to that. Also in night scenes, there's a lot of very subtle shifts in value in the darks. For example, with these rocks here on the side, there is lighter values, but they're not that much lighter. I didn't want to push these too far. If I pushed them too far, it would look like they were in the light. Now, I mean, they have light hitting them, but it's still, you know, in the shadows. Same thing with the railings here. When I did put in lighter shapes, like this one, I made sure not to make them too light. You have to be very subtle with my shifts in value doing a night scene with things that are in the dark. Because if I'm not, when I do go in to paint things like the inside of the shop here, it's not gonna pop and just things aren't gonna read. So I stopped working on this and came back to it a day later. And since there are a lot of darks in this painting, the darks had dulled a little bit. So I actually brought them back to life with this retouch varnish. It's Blair Matte retouch varnish, and I found it very helpful. It's a retouch varnish, so you can spray it on and still, you know, paint into it. You know, it's not gonna crack like regular varnish does if you put it on a painting before it's, you know, completely 100% dry. When I use it, I take it outside, spray it to get a lot of the colors back before working into it again. All right, I'm gonna jump in here real quick and let you know that I'm not gonna be going over color mixing in this video, but if you struggle with color mixing, I do offer the color mixing video from my Foundations of Oil Painting course for free. I'll put a link to where you can get that in the description below. And at this point, the paint is tacked up a lot, so it's a lot easier to go in and do certain detail work. So a lot of the second day was spent dialing things in, working really small shapes, and choosing where I wanted to put detail. You know, where did I want to draw people's eye to? And I'm coming back to that L composition and putting detail in the areas I want the eye to travel to. All right, now let's critique the painting. Start with some things that I ended up liking about this painting. One is I really like the dock here and just the railings. Something to keep in mind whenever you're doing railings or things like this is the spaces in between. You can see I varied them up and I never repeated the same pattern. Like I have a long one here. This one's a little shorter. This one's off to the side. Like they're not perfectly aligned. I tried not to do that. Like again here, one size, different size, different size, different size. And I didn't put them everywhere. And just having that randomness is going to help a lot. If these were all like perfectly straight, perfectly done, it'd be a little bit distracting, I think. So I'm happy with the way that turned out. I really ended up liking a lot of this green water down here. It wasn't as apparent in real life, but enhancing it. Since there's a lot of reds in this, contrasting it with red's complement green, I felt worked. Another cool thing was I noticed in the photo that I didn't notice in real life was the reflection from this green pole here, and it's kind of bringing that down and adding, a good vertical into the painting. When you're using a photo, you don't have to put in everything. But that being said, you don't have to not include something because you didn't see it in real life. Just pick and choose what will make the best painting. I think my favorite part about this might be these rocks here. I don't know, when I was there painting, it was actually really hard to see any changes in value, and I actually had to step away from my setup, away from my light to let my eyes adjust to see the light that was hitting these rocks. And I think I developed them and indicated them more than what I saw out there, but I think they work, and I really like just how they bring you this way composition wise. Also just like the little shapes created by the water in the rock here. And I purposefully put more of them up close here than, further back. You can see as I go further back, there's less and less of these shapes, because that's gonna help draw this area forward. Like I did that on purpose to make this area sit in the foreground. Again, a big thing to be aware of is spacing and varying up spacing of things. Like I have these pillars here, and mainly the negative space with the green water. Again, each one of these shapes is different. That is on purpose. That wasn't an accident. Same with here. This distance to that pylon is different than this, which is different from this, which is different from this. That was on purpose as well. Now, the main thing that I was kind of unhappy with was, I don't know, I feel like I might have been able to find a better composition. Thing that kind of gets on my nerve is that these rocks come off the canvas right here, which is right dead in the center. This space is pretty much the same as this space. I don't know, maybe bringing out the rocks a little further here would help that. Also, I like this shore a lot, but I'm wondering if it's taken away from the main compositional pattern that I was trying to establish at the beginning, which was, this big L composition. I think, you enter the painting, you come up here, you go over there, and then it brings you back down, and you can, start going back around again. I don't know, I still have hesitations about it. I purposefully made this area down here darker than what I saw or what was in the photos, just so I didn't draw so much attention to it. I really want the viewer to come in through here and then go across here. And I felt like if there was something really bright here, it'd be kind of competing with these as well. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting.